0. Hashtag Paulistão no Premier. Muito obrigado pela sua companhia. Vamos juntos?
Split or steal?
Yo guys, it is your boy, Niren here, and you are watching FTW. This of course is the series where it brings you the best and more frequently the worst of what football has to offer during the last 7 days. So what's kicked off this week? Well, Bill Gates took time off creating coronavirus to break up with his wife. I'm sure it was an extremely difficult conversation they had to go through. I'm sorry, I just can't do this anymore. It's like you and the company have become one. For fuck's sake, just speak to me, man. Basically the richest man ever. Let's not fool ourselves here. We're all swiping right on the geezer if he comes upon our Tinders. I might even have to just quickly keep it short and simple though, you know. And speaking of which, if you're a fan of that, you'll be happy to know I've created a clips channel, FNG Shorts. You can check it out down in the description. It caters very well for those of you that can't put up with my voice for longer than 45 seconds. And having lasted roughly that amount of time, the Super League is still having an influence on the weekly football stories. Microsoft-owned Xbox once sponsored Seattle Sounders, and with that it means that Bill Gates has contributed more positively to football than the Glazers ever have. Their general poor ownership, their Super League involvement, and presumably lack of any sort of respectable haircut has led to protests at Old Trafford that had United's game against Liverpool postponed. $3.1 billion in net worth, and you can't even afford a short back and sides. Are you bald or do you have hair? You need to pick a side, man. Avram Glazer refused to apologise for United's Super League plans when asked about it by a Sky journalist. He probably doesn't even know they played. Hello? Alright, hi boss. Yeah, so got some news for you. It's United. Oh, I already know that. These glorious United States of America that we're lucky to call home really are the corner. No, I mean Manchester United, the club that you own. Someone kill me, man, I swear. Manchester United fans have had enough. They broke into Old Trafford and flooded the United pitch. And honestly, props to them. Well, I must say, it's really great to see fans back in stadiums. One kid managed to balance on top of one of the nets, then subsequently lost balance. Another scored an absolute screamer.
Nani.
Further protesters even stole one of the corner flags and took it into the city centre. Now, look, do you have any information on the break into Old Trafford this afternoon? Oh, no, officer. No, I'm sorry, I can't help you there. Why are you holding a corner flag in the middle of Nando's? It seems as though Fred was still able to make it out onto the pitch at one stage. If I'm honest, I'm surprised Donny van de Beek didn't get involved, at least to boost his minutes. What security did they even have at the ground? Was it David Luiz and the rest of the Arsenal backline in charge or something? We were 10 more minutes away from Pele jumping in his car to get a few more extra goals for his tally. Sky pundit Graham Souness had multiple complaints to bring to the table given the situation going on underneath their gantry. He suggested it was all massively dangerous, very unnecessary, and that he could have been seriously injured by a beer can being thrown in his direction.
He could have been killed.
Very rich from a man whose standing tackles involved amputations. He was probably distracted by what was really going on anyway. Now, I know the security's really let us all down here, but you've really got to ask yourself what Paul Pogba could be doing in this situation. He provided even more lazy punditry following on from that, claiming United fans would not be complaining about their poor ownership if they were winning football matches. I think you'll find that in the height of their power under Sir Alex Ferguson, they were literally complaining about their poor ownership, but that's okay. In my opinion, props to Manchester United fans. I know it didn't start out as a planned venture onto the Old Trafford turf, but it was a powerful statement to end up having one of the biggest games in the league season called off. Though really and truly, I don't know how much the Glazers actually care. The Premier League are gonna care if you end up calling their games off constantly, and eventually they might have to do something. I do, however, condemn that one steward getting injured and having stitches. That wasn't good to see, but I feel like with any protest you are gonna get accidental violence. You should treat that as such, but don't tarnish the rest of the fans that went there and protested peacefully with the same brush. Wishing him a speedy recovery, because that cheek looks almost as bad as these trousers that were on site at the time. In the Champions League though now, and Manchester City are through to their first Euro European final in the modern era after a 4-1 aggregate win over Paris Saint-Germain. They won 2-0 on the night thanks to a Riyad Mahrez brace, but the game may well be remembered for PSG's petulance. The Parisians lost their heads. Di Maria was sent off for a stamp right in front of the technical areas on Fernandinho. Tackles were flying in left, right and centre once it went to 2-0. I've seen judo matches less physical. Verratti said that the referee told Paredes and himself to f*** off during the course of the game. Maybe it's because you were assaulting the opposition, mate. If I'm Pochettino, right, I'm rushing Di Maria. Bare knuckle beating for everybody involved. But for City, it's a route to the final, thanks to an unreal defensive display. Ruben Diaz was dishing out more blocks than Bateson. Him and John Stones were needed to man the fort at Old Trafford, mate. But if PSG were physical, Fernandinho was as well. I don't know how he escaped a booking. It was his birthday and he still didn't receive a card. Great performance from Man City in what were very snowy conditions in the middle of May.
What have we done to the world? Look what we've done.
As I said though, City in the final, and that's one last opportunity for Pep Guardiola to overthink things. Hear me out, you're not playing Kyle Walker in goal again. And it will be Chelsea who join Manchester City in the Champions League final after they beat Real Madrid 2-0 at Stamford Bridge to take a 3-1 aggregate victory. Chelsea youth graduate Mason Mount got their second after a Timo Werner opener. At least Thiago Silva's wife likes him now.
Werner, very good. That's what I'm talking about.
I was honestly half expecting him to miss, even though the goal took place within the Real Madrid net. As much as Chelsea thoroughly deserved to be in the final, Real Madrid were awful. They really just never transcended from fake Madrid, did they? Pretty sure Sergio Ramos was still somewhere in the crowd. The only chance they had of actually getting a goal in this one was if Callum Robinson was playing. And he'd certainly have done a better job than Eden Hazard, whose bunda provided absolutely no creativity whatsoever. This was him charging down the left-hand side for Real. And at full time, he was pictured laughing with former Chelsea teammates. But there you have it, English football officially certified the best in the world. Over in the Europa League first legs, and Arsenal were beaten 2-1 by Villarreal in the semi-finals. It really could have been worse after a Dani Ceballos red. However, Villarreal's US account seemed to think they had the man advantage just by him playing in the first place. It's a shithousery award for them. It looked like Unai Emery was going to truly come back and haunt Arsenal. There was panic at half-time for Mikel Arteta tactically. Pep, I need your help. I'm losing to Unai, and I've forgotten what you told me about that time when I was back at... Oh, no, that's crazy. I'm going through a tunnel, I think. We have a preview here of Mikel Arteta's actual tactics.
Vibes.
A second half penalty though, and a red card for Etienne Capoue whilst on a stretcher. I can't walk. And you can't tackle either, mate. In a bit. Did at least bring it back to 2-1. When asked about whether the Gunners can make it through to the final, Mikel Arteta simply responded, "We're Arsenal, so I'm going to assume they're not going through to the final then." But at least they do have some kind of hope. That's hope that can't be shared by Roma after their 6-2 away defeat against Manchester United. Roma just need to start forfeiting games before they've even started playing these lot. They were helped by Chris Smalling physically switching teams at half-time, and he might want to again when Jose Mourinho arrives at the training ground. The mercurial Portuguese manager was named as Roma manager this week, having been sacked by Tottenham last month. And after Jose's spell at United, this is likely to be the meeting himself and Chris Smalling have.
Get out! Get out!
And it's not just him. Henrik Mkhitaryan will be training with the under-23s by Thursday. Ryanair were having absolutely none of it, however, attempting to aid Jose in his flight to Rome by giving him flight details, but suggesting that given he hadn't won any trophies at Spurs, he wouldn't need the extra luggage. It's a shithousery award for them as well. Sticking with a slight United theme, and Anthony Martial's wife has suggested that he should be signing for Real Madrid shortly. Madrid? The man doesn't even start for Real Zaragoza. Over at West Brom versus Wolves, and the conditions were less than ideal. How on earth is VAR gonna operate in this? There's the news that given corona restrictions, fans may be encouraged to stamp their feet rather than open their mouths and cheer at games during the summer. Wembley's gonna have somewhat of a different edge to it this time around. Meanwhile, there was a supposed leak for Puma alternate kits this week for the likes of City, AC Milan, Borussia Dortmund, and really and truly, they are absolutely the worst kits I have ever seen in my life. Jadon Sancho's gonna look like he's working on a construction site next season. One graphic designer on Twitter teased the possibility of having a Premier League logo with an outline of a player like the Bundesliga has. He gave multiple different variations, but personally, this one for me is by far the best. Meanwhile, on loan Tottenham midfielder Oliver Skipp is adored by Norwich fans, and after their promotion to the Premier League, they were urging him to stay with the Canaries.
Oliver Skipp, we want you to stay. We want you to stay.
How on earth is this woman shouting in Times New Roman? After a 9-year Juventus reign, Inter broke the Scudetto curse by winning Serie A this week. Juve have fully shafted it thanks to a 43-year-old who looks like he's a Zara model. Romelu Lukaku wanted one more victory over Zlatan Ibrahimovic in all of this though. But a backstory, during the Milan derby, Zlatan and Lukaku squared up to each other, got very up close and personal. Yo, babes, what you saying? What? Pardon? He posted on Insta with a picture of him holding the corner flag saying he was the king of Milan, to which Zlatan came back with saying that they didn't need a king because he was a god. And Lukaku took some final shots with that in his Insta post celebrating Inter's title victory.
Ole, 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 campione, campione.
What a glow up from miscontrolling footballs into Tesco car park. Over in the Netherlands, and Ajax are also celebrating a title. Manager Erik ten Hag was loving it after winning the Eredivisie, but Dutch side FC Almere still managed to take the piss out of them with this video after a Brian Brobby missed penalty. Over in Monaco, and it's interesting to see Zac Efron getting on the score sheet. In Spain, and Barcelona fans have a new way of telling that Lionel Messi is the GOAT. They calculated that he has the best post per follower ratio on the entirety of Instagram. Are we mad? What's going on here? I can't wait for Lionel to win the Ballon d'Or based on the amount of tagged posts he has. Hello all, and welcome to The Beautiful Game, the segment where we take a look at the poetic and brilliant side of the game that we love. We are back by popular demand for yet more glorious beauty. And that concludes The Beautiful Game. Premier League teams took part in a social media blackout last weekend, and it was a campaign that attempted to raise awareness for abuse suffered online, either by professionals or general football fans, as well as members of the public in a wider scope, whether it be from a racial standpoint or just general abuse in different fashions. I personally think it's a pretty good idea for football teams and such to do this. Their fans rely heavily on social media, so them blacking out completely. If those teams just decided to pull themselves out of it, Insta and Twitter would probably be in the mud. I'm not sure there's going to be any way that they can stop Arsenal fans getting bullied, however. Over in Sweden, and AIK fans took over a shopping centre with banners and flags to protest a new rule in the country that only allows 8 fans in a stadium at a time. Who came up with this idea? What's the point in limiting attendance to a small family? You've only got 7 fans. James, please, I'm trying to get the baby to sleep. Congolese defender Chancel Mbemba has been exposed for allegedly having a fake passport. He's meant to have been born in 1994, but new details suggest that he was actually born in 1988. I mean, he does look 43. So over in Hungary, and we've got this own goal in the 2nd division. Over in Bulgaria, and a former chairman of the Football Association has reappointed himself in the position, having originally lost his job because of racism allegations against his national team. So what, in Bulgaria, do you just walk into a gaff with your CV and give yourself the job? Someone save Bulgaria, please, because we can't allow this man, clearly, to be running this show. Over in Argentina, and it's fair to say this Newell's old boy midfielder doesn't really rate drones. In the MLS, and don't get on the wrong side of this footballer for FC Dallas when he's taking a throw-in. I'll f***ing have you, mate. Meanwhile, over in Saudi Arabia, Nordin Amrabat has been making a name for himself by extravagantly exiting the field when he's being substituted. First time around, making sure that he was shaking hands with all of the officials, even if they really didn't want to shake his hand. And the second time when he was being rushed off by the referee, going over and shaking his hand as well. I don't think that's what he was wanting, Nordin, but I respect the manners. Meanwhile, in Ireland, and top division side Wexford lost their most recent game 6-0 because right at the start of the game, their goalkeeper was sent off. Then later in the football match, their substitute goalkeeper was sent off. But we know what PSG will do when they lose in the Champions League next year now. Speaking of goalkeepers though, and over in Italy, this Cagliari shot stopper almost produced one of the greatest goalkeeping goals of all time. But now it's time for the moment you've all been waiting for, because over in Romania, we've got a bit of a theme at the moment actually with goalkeepers in this episode, so we might as well carry it on with this clip.
Oh, ce gafă a Ioanii, se întinde după minge și este gol! O gafă enormă!
Over in the Russian 3rd Division, and these lot saw the conditions at the Etihad and decided to one-up it. In Ukraine, and I have no idea why these two captains are holding eggs for the coin toss. I'll be brutally honest, I don't know where this clip is from, I can't find details about it, but it does feature somewhat of a breakdown in communications between these two attackers. And if you thought that was bad between teammates, over in the Brazilian 2nd Division, it's getting a little bit heated between these two from Guarini. Now that it's time for still 0-0, and you guys know the score by now, this is a segment of the show where it brings you the best of Sunday League and amateur football. And this one does not disappoint. A Sunday League manager for JK Silvertown FC was so annoyed at his players giving the excuse that they didn't have any money to pay match fees to play for the club that he's now physically brought a card machine with him 2 games, so players can't get out of it that easily. Absolutely no excuses. On to the weird stuff though now. In Brazil, and being down to 10 men, Mirasol attempted to make 2 substitutions. They brought the 2 players on that they wanted to bring on. However, the 2 that were meant to exit the field just didn't. So for a short period of time, they actually played in the game with 12 men before any of the officials actually noticed, and obviously they had to have 2 players taken off. In the Netherlands, and a Feyenoord youngster by the name of Splinter de Moy has quit professional football in the search of becoming a doctor. Alex Iwobi, it's still not too late to make that decision yourself. Former Marseille, Tottenham and Chelsea manager Andre Villas-Boas has announced he'll be competing in the next round of the World Rally Championship this year. How this has happened, why this has happened, I don't know. A student by the name of Daniel Gamboa has been offered a place at the University of California after he wrote an entire application essay on Football Manager. Finally, that one save taken Havant and Waterlooville to the Champions League final has actually paid off. Now in Scotland, and there was some shocking news this week, where Albion Rovers striker David Cox has announced he's retiring from football after an opponent by the name of Jonathan Tiffany targeted mental health issues that Cox had experienced in the past. I'm not going to go over what he said because it's pretty grim, and I guess if you have been suffering from mental health issues recently, it may be something of a trigger. But I'm hoping we'll one day see David back out on the pitch, and hopefully we'll see some kind of action taken against Jonathan, because there needs to be a lot more of an emphasis on mental health in football. It's not really talked about enough, and generally speaking, there needs to be that support in an industry that has so much pressure on it. A, getting into football as a professional in the first place, but then B, the pressures of abuse online, and in this case, even abuse from fellow players. If it's something you do struggle with though, there are helpful links down in the description for you to check out. But one feel-good story to end things up, and we head over to Australia, where Perth Glory owner Tony Sage has been attending home games for the last 14 years without missing a single one. But because their most recent game was closed off and fans weren't allowed in, his way around it was to become a Perth Glory ball boy to make sure that he was still in the stadium. That's what we call an owner who loves the club. But that is going to wrap up football this week, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then feel free to slap a like on the video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @officialfng on Twitter and on Insta. But it's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.